So you've published some amazing content, you've nailed your keyword research strategy and have link building down. That's great. But it's important to make sure that your content and website are not only readable by humans, but by search engines too. This is where technical SEO comes in. But don't panic. You don't need to have a really deep understanding of technical SEO, but it is important to have an overall understanding if you want to communicate effectively to developers and have a well-rounded SEO strategy. Technical SEO is the process of optimizing your website to help search engines like Google find, crawl, understand, and index your pages. The goal is to be found by these search engines to either get your content ranking in search engines or increase visibility. Technical SEO is also concerned with improving the user experience and increasing site speed. Why is it important? Because when you get it right, you can drastically improve the user experience and make it easier for search engines to access your website, boosting your rankings and visibility within the search results. I want to start by explaining what happens when a website is created so you can get an understanding of how they work, and also how web pages make their way onto the search results. When a website domain is created, it's turned into an Internet Protocol address, which you probably know as an IP address. The internet doesn't understand the domain name as we see it. FATJOE.com, for example, is easier for humans to remember than the IP address, which will be a combination of 4 number sets. Domain name servers link the domain name to the IP address and enable humans to easily access everything that sits behind the visible veil of the internet. Now let's look at the internet as a whole, so we can understand where our website sits within it. The World Wide Web is easier to understand if we think of it as a giant spider's web. The delicate strands of our web represent the billions of websites around the world, connected by hyperlinks. Search engines use programs called spiders or crawlers, which are constantly moving throughout the internet. Google's is called Googlebot. A spider will enter your website and gather a list of all URLs they find through the linked pages, as well as the sitemaps created by the website owner or developer. You'll possibly recognize a sitemap as one of these. A sitemap contains a website's most important pages, making it easy for search engines to find and crawl them. Sitemaps also help in understanding your website structure, making it easier to navigate your website. Each of these URLs are then added into a queue. Spiders will then crawl them one by one. They crawl through the internal hyperlinks to view every single page in a website, before they move on to the next website via outbound hyperlinks. These spiders can't jump from page to page or website to website. They only get to the next URL by crawling through links. If the pages aren't linked, they can't be crawled, so search engines have no way of knowing that those pages exist. These are called orphaned pages. A crawl budget is the number of URLs a spider will crawl in one visit. Only the larger websites need to be concerned with a crawl budget, because the more pages there are, the more likely the Google spiders are to miss some of these pages. But also, the better optimized the pages are, the higher the crawl budget. In the same way as we spend our money, we're more likely to spend more on something that is of a higher quality and worthwhile. If crawlers experience anything that blocks their way or causes obstacles while crawling your website, they'll likely slow down or even stop crawling the site altogether. Once the crawlers have finished gathering all the data on a web page, the pages are stored in Google's index, ready to be called upon when a user enters a search for a specific term. There will be cases when you don't want Google to crawl a web page. It could be something that you've created purely to support the user experience, or maybe a document such as a PDF. There are a few ways that you can ensure that Google only crawls what you want it to. The first is with access restrictions. The most visible is via a login system, but you could also use a HTTP authentication, which simply means that the web page requires a password to enable access. Or you could only allow certain IP addresses to access pages. You may have experienced this for yourself with a company intranet, where you can only access files whilst you're in the office. It also works for development or staging websites. Search engines won't be able to access any of these pages, therefore they won't be indexed. The second is through the contents of the Robots.txt. You can access the file here. You'll see code that looks similar to this. It's simply telling Googlebot in this case to ignore any URLs containing these paths. Note that this is just for Google, so these pages may still be indexed by other search engines such as Bing. If you use WordPress, you can use plugins to de-index pages or discourage your search engine from indexing a whole site from within the settings. Before we head into technical SEO audits and fixing issues, I want to draw your attention to a major Google ranking factor impacted by technical SEO, and that's page experience. Google explains page experience as a signal that measures aspects of how users perceive the experience of interacting with a web page. They want websites to optimize for the factors that provide a good user experience by keeping users engaged, offering less friction. You need to consider page experience whenever you're optimizing a website for technical SEO. Audits enable you to get a snapshot of the current state of the technical SEO on your website and enable you to create a checklist to improve the performance of your site. Thankfully, there are a host of tools to assist you. Essentials include Google Search Console, which gives you an inside look to see how Google sees your site. You can easily monitor and in some cases resolve server errors, site load issues, and security issues like hacking and malware from within the console. You can monitor search performance and ensure any site maintenance or adjustments you make happen smoothly. You can also receive notifications whenever there are problems affecting your website's visibility in search, such as server errors, blocking of critical pages, link penalties, and more. Screaming Frog is another great technical SEO tool and has been a highly recommended crawling tool within the SEO space for many years. The free version allows you to crawl up to 500 pages of a website, which is an ideal amount for most small sites. With the free features, you can detect broken links, redirect chains, take a look at titles and meta descriptions, find duplicate pages, and more. Other tools include Copyscape to ensure that you're not duplicating content from other domains, or the other way around. SERP Simulator for showing you precisely how your pages will appear in the results before going live. And Google PageSpeed Insights for measuring things like how long it takes images to load. Next, I'll tell you how to fix the most common technical SEO issues. But to find out whether these are an issue that your website is facing, you can follow our simple 10-step guide to conducting an SEO audit. I'll pop the link at the end of this video. Although technical SEO can get quite complicated when you delve really deep into it, there are a few top-level technical SEO factors that any beginner will benefit from understanding. I'll also mention the common technical SEO issues with an overview of how to fix them. Rich snippets are nuggets of information that Google displays directly in the SERPs to provide users with more information about a website or business. Ranking for featured snippets will increase the prominence of your pages in the search results. Google doesn't automatically pull data for featured snippets, so it requires you to add schema markup, which is pretty much the same as jumping up and down screaming, "It's here!" If you have a WordPress site, the easiest way to add schema to your website is via the free WordPress plugin. Search for schema within the new plugins menu and simply follow the instructions within your plugin to add your markup. Google also offers a tool called the Structured Data Markup Helper. You can use the tool to label your content according to the built-in snippet categories. E-commerce websites would use the products category. Websites with a complex URL structure may use the breadcrumb schema, which indicates a page's position in the site hierarchy. Or you could use the business details schema to mark up opening hours of a brick-and-mortar store. When Google crawls the same content on different web pages, it sometimes doesn't know which page to index in search results. The rel canonical tag allows you to tell search engines where the original master version of a piece of content is located. So you're telling Google which page to index and it'll ignore the duplicates. So if you want to republish a piece of content, whether exactly or slightly modified, but don't want to risk creating duplicate content, the canonical tag is here to save the day. Ahrefs offers a tool within the site audit. Here you can map your pages and see a visual representation of duplicates. I mentioned earlier in the video about how spiders can't jump from page to page without following a hyperlink. If any of these are broken, it stops the spiders in their tracks. Also, if users click a link expecting to see more information and are hit with an error, then it has a negative impact on user experience. You can use Ahrefs to look for broken links by running a site audit and looking at the issue list. You can click through to the Pages has links to broken pages error to find the links you need to resolve. On that same note, there are pages that don't have any links to them. These orphaned pages, therefore, can't be found by search engines via site links. This could be a new product page that hasn't been assigned a category, or a new blog post that hasn't been linked to the blog page. You can also use the Ahrefs issue report to find all the orphan pages on a website. Once you find them, you can either add them to your existing site page hierarchy or delete them. While organising the website content, you may delete some pages, which can result in a 404 error if a user or Googlebot stumbles across the page via an existing link. The best thing to do in this instance is to set up a 301 redirect to a new but relevant page. You'll retain around 90% of the SEO following this strategy, and you'll avoid harming the user experience. However, sometimes a 404 error page is still required. When this happens, it's best to design a great page that helps to retain your customers, points them in the right direction, and communicates your values and personality, like this Blizzard example. A slow loading speed is also a common technical SEO issue that can have a massive impact on your rankings. Just a 2-second delay in load time increases cart abandonment rates by 87% on e-commerce websites. You can check your website's page speed by using Google's PageSpeed Insights. This free tool will not only give you a score, but it'll even spit back some great feedback on what you can do to improve the site on both desktop and mobile. Aside from optimizing the back-end code of the website, which you'll likely need a developer for, the most obvious way to improve the site loading speed is to remove any unnecessary elements from your pages. Things like data-heavy background images are an excellent place to start. You can also remove any unused plugins taking up valuable storage space on your CMS. The only way you'll truly know the current state of the technical SEO on any website is to conduct a full audit. So click the screen now to follow our simple 10-step guide to conducting a technical SEO audit on any website.